You don't always need to be chasing big ticket locations to have a really good Banff day. Picture this: you step out of your hotel in Banff with a coffee in your hand. Instead of fighting for parking at Lake Louise or racing to a shuttle, you wander down to the river, maybe rent a canoe, stroll to a viewpoint, grab lunch in town, and finish the day with a sunset at Vermilion Lakes. No car keys, no bus schedules, just a full day of experiences right from town. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through exactly what you can do in and around the town of Banff in both summer and winter. Welcome to the Banff Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Celine Brewer, a local Canmore resident and your Banff travel expert. If this is your first time listening to the Banff Travel Podcast, I'm glad you're here because this is where I share local tips, honest advice, and practical planning help so you can feel confident planning your Banff National Park trip. So here we are, episode 34. That's 34 weeks of delivering an episode first thing each Thursday morning, except this week. I promise I have a good reason. If you've been over to my site, travelbanffcanada.com, in the past day or so, you may have noticed it looks completely different. I spent the better part of early November completely redoing the website. You'll now find a Start Here page and a bunch of other pages that are going to make your trip planning so much easier. I would love to know what you think. And if you have a chance to head over to my site, make sure you sign up for my email. I share tons of great info, and I'll make sure you don't miss any of those important dates like shuttle reservations, camping reservations, or even the next podcast episode. Now on to today's topic. We're going to talk about all the things you can do right in the town of Banff. I'm not saying you need to do everything, but the town of Banff definitely deserves some time in your itinerary, whether that's a couple of days, one full day, or even just late afternoons and evenings. The town of Banff is not just a place to sleep or grab groceries between real sightseeing days. You have rivers, wetlands, viewpoints, hot springs, bike paths, gondolas, and perfect little adventures that all start right from town. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you, the town of Banff, and especially Banff Ave, are busy, like really busy. But take the time to get away from downtown Banff, and I guarantee you'll love it. In this episode, I'm going to break it down into sections. Easy walks around town, summit experiences, the Banff Gondola, getting on the water, biking from town, picnics, bird watching, quiet corners, fun indoor activities and tours, and how all of this works in winter, and then a few ideas on just how to build that perfect Banff town day. Let's get started with that mindset shift. So many travelers come to Banff thinking every day has to be a big mission. Drive out to Lake Louise, drive the Icefields Parkway, go to Marine Lake on a shuttle. It's a lot of logistics and a lot of time in the car. What I love most about the town of Banff, it is incredibly walkable. The downtown area is compact, the Bow River is right there, and there are trails and bike paths radiating out in all directions. You can walk or ride to trailheads, to the cave and basin, and the bus ride to the gondola and even the hot springs is nice and short. So instead of stressing about parking, you can enjoy a day where you leave the car behind and move at a slower pace. You can go back to your hotel for a break, you can linger on a patio because you're not trying to beat traffic, and even if you aren't staying right in the town of Banff, you can park at the free lot at the Banff train station and enjoy the town on foot. You all know that I live in Canmore, and when I go to the town of Banff, I almost always just park at the Banff train station and walk from there. I would much rather enjoy that walk than deal with the busy streets, which is the perfect thing to start talking about. Let's talk about those simple walks that almost anyone can enjoy. The Fenland Trail is one of my favorite short walks in Banff. It's an easy forest loop just on the outskirts of town with a nice mix of trees, the creek, and a real in-nature feeling without much effort. It's flat, it's kid-friendly, it's a great way to stretch your legs or get some time in nature, especially if you've just arrived. From downtown Banff, you can easily connect onto the Bow River Trail. The pathway goes to the Fenland Trail, or if you go in the opposite direction, you'll reach the Nancy Paw Bridge first and then the pedestrian bridge second. Along the river, you get those turquoise tones in the water, mountain views in all directions. It is such a simple walk, but it really delivers that classic Banff feeling. You can follow this trail along the river. You can even continue on the path all the way up to Surprise Corner. And if you really want to be out hiking or walking, you can hike from Surprise Corner all the way out to the Hoodoos viewpoint. Alternatively, you can cross over one of the bridges and connect to the other paths that lead to Bow Falls or even towards the cave and basin in the other direction. Now, you don't need to walk to Bow Falls, Surprise Corner, or the Hoodoos. These are all stunning viewpoints around the town of Banff that you can walk or hike to if you want to, but you can also drive or take Rome Transit to these viewpoints. You can even hike one way and take the bus back, so many options depending on how much time you have. Now let's talk about the cave and basin. This is the birthplace of Canada's national park system, and it's very much worth visiting as an actual site and not just for the boardwalks. Inside, you can see the historic cave, learn about the story of how the park began, and get a feel for the human history here, plus all the scenery. From the building, you can walk out onto the Discovery Boardwalk. It has a beautiful area for a gentle stroll, and it's also one of the best places near town for bird watching. You can look out over the wetlands with the mountains behind, and it's easy to forget you're so close to town. From behind the cave and basin, you can follow the paved Sundance Trail along the river and through the forest. And if you're feeling energetic, you can continue the short hike through Sundance Canyon. You can also bike the paved portion and walk the canyon loop, or just walk the whole thing. It feels a little bit more adventurous, but it's still very accessible from town. And this is a great option for people who want something more than just a flat riverside stroll, but you're not looking for a full day hike. Now, all of these things I've mentioned can be reached right from the town, but that's not all. We can talk about getting up higher. So Tunnel Mountain is Banff's summit. The trailhead is close to town and can be reached right from downtown Banff without driving. As you climb, the views open up in all directions. You get one side looking over the town and the Bow River. You look towards the Fairmont Banff Springs and over the golf course. There are those classic red chairs at the top and plenty of places to sit and take it all in. Then there's Sulphur Mountain. You can hike up from the trailhead near the Banff Gondola parking lot. The trail is a series of switchbacks through the forest with the occasional glimpse of the valley below. At the top, you arrive at the summit complex with the boardwalks, the weather station, and the full 360-degree views of the surrounding peaks. Obviously, the Banff Gondola is one of the major attractions in the entire park, and it's right above the town. Whether you hike up, ride up, or combine the two, is a signature Banff experience. If you enjoy hiking and want to save a bit of money, one of my favorite things to do is to hike up instead. You get that sense of accomplishment from earning that summit, and you can still enjoy the facilities at the top. Of course, if hiking is not your thing, then you can ride the gondola. The building at the top has indoor exhibits, the boardwalk, several viewpoints. So those are all the walks and hikes, and don't worry, I have a post on all of these that I'll leave in the show notes. I've talked about the most popular viewpoints from the Banff Gondola, Surprise Corner, Bow Falls, Hoodoo's viewpoints, but there are still others. One of those popular pictures in Banff is standing right on Banff Ave, looking straight down the street at Cascade Mountain. I know lots of people want to get that picture, but just make sure you aren't getting in the way of traffic and being safe if you are out there trying to take a picture. From Banff Avenue, just across the bridge from downtown, you'll find the Cascade of Time Garden, which feels a little like a secret corner of Banff. You have terraced pathways, water features, and flower beds wind up the hillside, and you get a beautiful view back over the town of Banff with Cascade Mountain lined up perfectly behind it. It's a lovely spot for a quiet stroll and a short break from the crowds on Banff Avenue. And while we're talking about classic views, I have to mention the Banff Town sign. It's just outside the main downtown, and it has become one of those super popular photo stops. They are currently in the process of moving it to a new location, given the chaos it has caused at the entrance of town. With it moving closer to the train station, it's just a 7 to 8 minute walk from the main downtown area, and even easier to visit if you're parking at the train station. It would also pair well with doing the Fenland Trail or a walk along Vermilion Lakes Road. Vermilion Lakes Road is also just outside the town of Banff. It's a low speed limit road, and you'll often find people running, biking, or walking on it, so make sure you take it slow if you're driving it. The Vermilion Lakes is a great spot for bird watching or even just to catch those reflections of Mount Rundle on the water. It's also a great place to take out a canoe or stand-up paddleboard. So up next on our list of things you can do right from the town of Banff is getting on the water. One of the cheapest places without losing the stunning mountain scenery to canoe is from the Banff Canoe Club. Right in town on the Bow River, you can rent canoes or kayaks and paddle either up the river or even to Vermilion Lakes. You can reach the lakes by paddling from town through the channels, but it will require carrying your canoe up past a beaver dam. Or if you happen to be driving and have your own watercraft, you can obviously launch directly from one of the docks along Vermilion Lakes Road. Just make sure you're always following those clean, drain, dry requirements in all of the national parks. Of course, if paddling is not your thing, a river float is another great option from Banff. You can sit back in a big inflatable boat while a guide does the work. You still get all the scenery, the fresh air, and the feeling of moving through the landscape on the water without needing to do all the work yourself. Back on dry land, Banff is also fantastic for casual biking. Even if you're not a hardcore cyclist, you can rent bikes right in town and have a lot of options right from the bike shop door. Or you can even join an e-bike tour. The Legacy Trail is a paved multi-use path that connects the towns of Banff and Canmore, and you don't have to ride the whole thing, you can just do a part of it. As I mentioned, Vermilion Lakes Road is another favorite. It's flat and quiet, and you have the constant views over the wetlands with Mount Rundle in the background. If you want something a bit longer, but not as long as the Legacy Trail, you can follow the start of the Legacy Trail towards Canmore, then take the path out towards Cascade Ponds. It's a lovely area for a break or a picnic. From there, if you're comfortable riding on the road with cars, you can continue on the shared road around the Lake Minnewanka Loop. When the Bow Valley Parkway has seasonal closures to public vehicles in May, June, and again in late August through September, it becomes one of the best bike routes in the park. You can access it right from the end of Vermilion Lakes Road, where you'll join a pathway at the end, and it will take you right onto the Bow Valley Parkway. Really take the time to enjoy that ride along a quiet forested road that is usually reserved for cars. The scenery is beautiful, wildlife sightings are common, so have your bear spray, and it feels like a proper adventure, even though you're still close to town. Finally, I mentioned it previously, but you can also ride on the Sundance Trail to Sundance Canyon. All of these I've discussed in more detail in episode 24 on the best Banff bike routes, and I'll also leave my post on in the show notes. If you enjoy biking at all, I would try to fit one of these rides into your itinerary. Now, not every moment of your trip has to be high energy. Once you're done with that hiking, biking, or canoeing, what else can you enjoy? Central Park is that easy green space right on the river in town. It is perfect for a takeaway lunch, letting kids run around, or just sitting on a bench and watching the river flow past. A little farther out and across the Nancy Paw Bridge is Sundance Park and the recreation grounds, which feel a little bit more local. You know, they have a really great new adventure playground, skate park, sports fields. It's really a great area for families or anyone who just wants to enjoy being away from the main streets of Banff. As I mentioned, if you enjoy bird watching or just like the idea of slow time in nature, Vermilion Lakes and the marshes around the Cave and Basin Discovery Boardwalk are both really amazing. You can stand on the boardwalk or by the shoreline and watch for ducks and a variety of other birds, depending on the season, with the mountains framing everything. It's peaceful and just a nice contrast to the busier parts of town. Of course, if you want something more classic and outdoorsy, horseback rides from Warner Stables start right from near town. You can enjoy short rides that follow the Bow River and nearby forest trails. It's a very Rockies experience, right? And you do not need to be an experienced rider. For a lot of visitors, this ends up being one of their favorite memories because it's such a different way of seeing the landscape. And believe it or not, we still haven't covered everything. Now, for those rainy day backups, you can visit a museum like the Banff Park Museum, Buffalo Nation's Luxton Museum, or the White Museum. For something a little bit more on the fun side, Banff High Rollers is the local bowling alley and restaurant. There's escape rooms in Banff, or even food tours are another fun way to experience Banff without leaving town. And again, this is all just the things within the town. I have purposely left out the other activities nearby, like along Lake Minnewanka Road, the Mount Norquay Ski Resort, which has year-round activities, and the Bow Valley Parkway. And then you have things like guided walking tours, wildlife tours that depart from town, and really so many other tour options that leave from town. The main point is that you really don't need to be in a car to have a full, interesting day. And as promised, let's talk about winter. I know the vast majority of people are planning for summer, but I know there's some of you out there that are visiting in the winter months. The main thing to keep in mind in winter is being prepared for the cold weather and that bus schedules and routes are reduced, so that's not always a reliable backup plan. Now, a surprising amount of what I've just talked about is still possible, just with some adjustments. Obviously, the Banff Gondola is open year-round, except for a brief time here in November when it closes for maintenance. You can still walk the Bow River Trail, the Fenland Trail, Sundance Trail to Sundance Canyon, though that is currently closed, but they can all be beautiful in winter. I just recommend having some type of traction devices on your shoes and, just paying attention to the conditions, especially if it's icy. The Surprise Corner to Hoodoo's hike can also work in winter. Again, I recommend checking trail reports and making sure that you're ready to be out in the cold for longer times and having those traction devices. Tunnel Mountain and Sulphur Mountain also remain popular winter hikes. Again, broken record here, micro spikes are well worth it and extra warm layers are going to make a big difference. Even if they end up in your backpack, at least you have them with you. On top of that, winter adds a whole extra layer of experiences. You have skating, sometimes on natural ice and on maintained rinks around town. If you still want to get on a bike, then fat bike tours are very popular and a lot of fun. If the conditions are good, it's possible to do a horse-drawn sleigh ride from town. Ski resorts, obviously outside of town. But Norquay, Sunshine, Lake Louise are easy day trips using the shuttles right from Banff, and Mount Norquay has tubing, which is a lot of fun, as does the Lake Louise Ski Resort. And of course, once it's reopened, the Banff Upper Hot Springs is there to warm you up after a day outside. So even if you visit in the coldest months and never drive farther than the nearby ski hills, you can still have full memorable days based right out of the town of Banff. So what might a typical day around the town of Banff look like? Let's assume it's summertime and you start out with a slow breakfast in town. Maybe you do a morning walk along the Bow River Trail and up to Bow Falls. Late morning, a canoe or kayak from the Banff Canoe Club with a picnic lunch in Central Park. Then you do an afternoon bike ride along Vermilion Lakes Road or even out to Sundance Canyon. And then early evening, you head up the Banff Gondola. In the winter, you might swap in a winter hike like up Tunnel or a soak at the hot springs, a museum visit, and a cozy dinner in town. All right, just a few more little tips on that. So what to actually pack. Even for town activities, you're probably going to need layers. I never leave in the summertime without a light rain jacket, water bottle, snacks, sunscreen, and yes, bear spray. Even on those trails close to town, like the Fenland Trail, you're in wildlife habitat. It's rare, but it happens that the bears can be there. You want to be prepared, especially if you're heading further out like Sundance Trail or hiking Surprise Corner to the Hoodoos. The Rome transit system does run frequently in the summer to the major spots like the Cave and Basin, Banff Gondola, up to the Tunnel Mountain campground where you could go to the Hoodoos viewpoint, and even out to Lake Minnewanka. It's affordable, eliminates parking stress, but keep in mind, not all the routes run in the winter and they don't run on the same schedule. And then for those of you traveling to Banff on a budget, here's something nobody tells you. You can have those incredible days in Banff for almost nothing. The trails are free, the viewpoints are free, the Discovery Boardwalk at the Cave and Basin is free, you can pack a picnic lunch, you can skip the gondola and hike up Sulphur Mountain, and suddenly you're having these world-class mountain experiences for the cost of your groceries and maybe a canoe rental if you head out onto the water. And finally, think about when you're visiting. Everyone thinks July and August are peak, and they are. Definitely peak and peak for crowds, but you can do many of these town activities with half the people in the shoulder season. And May and June are excellent for wildlife viewing. Spring runoff makes the waterfalls even more dramatic. So it's really nice that you can do so many of these things any time of year. Now, before we wrap up, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed trying to pull it all together on your own, I have 2 ways I can help you. First, I do send out that free weekly Banff trip planning email. It's where I share all the must-know updates like shuttle booking dates, camping reservation dates, seasonal closures, and other tips that keep your plans on track. You can find a link to join in the show notes. If you would like more personalized help, I also offer 1-hour Banff travel consultations. We get on a call, we walk through your dates, your priorities, any questions you have, and I help you create a clear plan you can actually use. Again, that link is in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Banff Travel Podcast. If you have feedback or you have a question you would like me to answer in a future episode, head to banfftravelplanning.com/podcast and send it in. Until next time, happy trip planning, and I'll see you out on the trails.